Hello, my name is Roy Gillis, CEO of Lighthouse Streaming, and you're watching Centex Sports Network.
This is why you need Centex Primetime. Jalen Gillis brings the realness. Dive into the heart of sports with the most passionate commentary around. From pro to high school, Jalen's got the insight and energy you crave. Catch all the action weekdays from 5 to 7 p.m. on the Centex Sports Network, only on YouTube. Join the conversation and elevate your sports knowledge with Centex Primetime. Don't miss it.
Need video or audio solutions? Lighthouse Streaming, a full-scale media agency, can transform any event. Check this out. We're talking live streaming that's crisp and clear, event audio that hits every note, and church video and audio solutions that'll enhance worship. Corporate events, we got those on lock too. From concerts to conferences, Lighthouse Streaming and audio makes your vision shine. Book your appointment now at lighthousestreaming.com or call 254-252-4206 for a free consultation. Let's elevate your event and light up the stage.
Hello, my name is Roy Gillis, founder and CEO of Lighthouse Streaming. Over the last 4 years, we've had some tremendous successes, none of which could have been accomplished without you, our clients, and our viewers. From my family and the staff of Lighthouse Streaming, thank you.
What's up, everybody? My name is Jalen.
Hello,
Gillis.
and welcome back into Centex Prime Time. I am your host, Jalen Gillis, getting ready to bring you through the prime time topics in sports, not just here in the Central Texas area, but from all around the nation. We want to thank everybody for tuning in with us here today on this Tuesday afternoon. Thank you guys for watching with us over on YouTube, Centex Sports Network /Centex Sports TV. Also, you can watch with us on Facebook and on our website, centexsportsnetwork.com. That is centexsportsnetwork.com. Make sure you guys go over there. Free subscription. You'll be able to catch all of our content live from there as well. Well, folks, yesterday we had a really good show. Today, we've got more lined up for you here today as we talk about the championship parade. Oklahoma City Thunder take their final championship parade. Looked like it was a pretty fun one as we've seen some of the videos that's come out from there. We'll talk about what's going on in the NBA outside of the championship. Multiple trades that could change up the landscape of how next year looks have happened over the last few days. We talked a little bit about Kevin Durant. We'll talk some more about that here today. Also, Anthony Simons going to Boston, getting traded for Drew Holiday as well. So different moves being made around the league. C.J. McCollum headed to the Wizards, but I don't think the Wizards are going to do anything. Folks, like I said, we got a lot to be able to talk about. We'll talk about some local topics here today as well. And also, Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee, so you know there's going to be some type of sound bites from that as well in today's show. So we'll get right into it. Joining me here today on the show, familiar face to the show here with us, the man himself, Mr. Rocky Miller, in the building with his Rock. What's going on?
Hey, man, you know it's always good to be here. This is one of the highlights of my week. I wasn't able to make it last week, man. I saw my main man, Wayne, come through. And yesterday I really enjoyed the show with a referee, national championship, Final Four referee.
multiple times.
Multiple times. And someone I grew up with, Keith Kimball. So, man, it was good to watch that. And then, of course, I'm glad to be here today to talk sports with so much going on in sport, in NBA in particular. You know, it's really interesting. There's not much, competition going on the NBA side of the house now that the finals are over with. But I was, there's a lot of movement.
A lot, and I think it's a lot more.
And one of the things I'm saying, it seems like teams are looking like maybe rather than staying packed and going at it again with the same group, what they're looking at is maybe we could replicate some of the things that Oklahoma City and even Indiana to a certain extent has done with their rosters in order to have hope to get to a championship. Because I'll be honest with you, if Oklahoma City has a possibility, wins the championship, I think there are a lot of teams that have hope this time of year going into 2026.
Absolutely. I mean, like you said, the Thunder, they built their team mostly homegrown, some acquisitions here and there, the Isaiah Hartensteins, the Alex Caruso's, mostly homegrown, and they ended up getting an MVP in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. But if you're looking at the teams in the East on the Pacers side, half the teams in the East should feel like we should be able to do what the Pacers did this year, because at the end of the day, it's not like they had a overwhelming superstar on the team. They had a couple of all-stars and some really good players around them. So teams are starting to position themselves thinking, man, we can do that same thing, especially in the East. We talked about it yesterday with the injuries to now Tyrese Halliburton is going to probably miss the entire year next year. Jason Tatum probably going to miss the entire year next year. Damian Lillard probably going to miss the entire – those are three of your top teams in the East. I know the Knicks are probably sitting there like, why do we fire our head coach after this all happened now? But, yeah, the East was wide open. That's why I think the Orlando Magic picking up Desmond Bane was big. I think they're a team that's a couple of pieces away. We see teams positioning themselves. The Heat were trying to position themselves to get Kevin Durant. I think that might have put them over the top in the East just because of the lack of competition in the East. I mean, you got Cleveland, who we're not sure what they're going to look like after the disappointment last year. New York, we don't even know who their coach is to put them in at the top of there to be in contention. And I like the move Boston made. I think that gives them a chance to compete better, but I don't like Boston enough to win anything without Jason Tatum on their team, without your best player. So the East is wide open, and I think it's kind of interesting. I'm used to, after the finals, kind of slowing down a little bit, but I feel like the last couple of years, the NBA and the NFL, their off seasons have been way more intriguing, I feel like, over the last couple of years. A lot more player movement that gives us some stuff to talk about. You weren't here yesterday when we talked a little bit about the finals. What do you think about the Thunder being able to close it out in 7? SGA finishes off a historic season. Honestly, I said it yesterday, finishes as the 4th player now, I believe, to win MVP, Finals MVP, and the scoring title all in the same year. Only other people to do that, Shaquille O'Neal, Michael Jordan, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. So historic season for SGA to be able to finish it off. What you think about the Thunder closing it out and getting that championship?
Man, they came into the playoffs as the best team with the best record. It kind of, even though with all the excitement that happened during the playoffs, mostly created by Indiana. Honest with you. It was really anticlimactic to me with Halliburton going out. It really was a real letdown for me. I think we would have had a much better game had he been able to play, and him getting injured really put almost like a cloud over the game for me. A cloud over the game for me. I credit Indiana for fighting as hard as they did for as long as they did, but I think the inevitable, ended up happening. Even though T.J. McConnell had a really, really good run there for a while,
He did.
But as you can see, late in the third quarter, they were able to separate, and once that happened, Indiana didn't have much of a chance with what they had left. And really, it boiled down to once Caruso subbed in and started guarding McConnell. It kind of his water was kind of cut off.
That was over with.
Along with probably the fatigue, I mean, with him, having to play, extended minutes and actually being the primary scorer for a stretch there in the third quarter. So again, I just think it was kind of anticlimactic. It was once Halliburton went out, we kind of knew it was a matter of time. Interesting to me is that we kind of get back to what I would consider the story is for probably the last decade is the West being far superior than the East.
Mm-hmm.
Mainly because of the work of Golden State throwing in the Lakers and the Nuggets in there to kind of, win some championships in that last time period. But do you still, with that being the case, do you still think the West has established its dominance over, even with Boston winning last year, is the West the more superior conference?
Yeah, I believe so. I think it's been like that for at least the majority of my lifetime. But then we got LeBron in the Eastern Conference, and then we had the big three Celtics in the Eastern Conference that kind of shook it up a little bit to take away from the West dominance. But like you said, especially in the last decade, I mean, it's been, if it wasn't for Boston, a super team in Boston that they kind of built last year, I think majority of the good teams, even with Milwaukee winning one, even with Toronto winning in 2019, I think the majority of the work is in the Western Conference, and I think that's going to repeat this year, especially with three of the best players in the entire East are going to miss all of next year pretty much with an Achilles injury. So I definitely see that to be the same coming up this year again with the West dominating like they've done over the last, like I said, most of my lifetime they dominated because we had the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe, had the Spurs, the Duncan Spurs. And then the second iteration of the Lakers with Kobe and Pau Gasol, I see that being more of the same.
Now, what do you think, from a fan standpoint, does it help or hurt the NBA that in the last 7 years, I believe I'm correct, the last 7 years, you've had 7 different champions?
Yeah, 7th years in a row now of different. I think the parity is good for the league. I like the parity. We got so enamored with the super team, really going in with, we got Shaq and Kobe, and then that broke up. Some parity started to kick in. Miami snuck in there, got him a ring. San Antonio did what they did, and then the Boston Big Three starts back up. Then Miami with LeBron. Then Golden State with Kevin Durant. It kind of went back to back to back to back with these super teams. Now we're finally starting to get some of that parity that, honestly, Adam Silver wanted. He said this 5-6 years ago. They want more parity within the league, and they've created that. They put the second apron in place. That's helped create that. That might end up even taking out this OKC team. Now, they're probably the best team to be able to defeat or to win against that second apron or that hard cap that stops teams from keeping all their stars because they have so many assets. Then they have 15 draft picks over the next 5 or 6 years, first-round draft picks over the next 5 or 6 years. They got 2 first-round draft picks this year, and they just won the championship. So they're probably best built to be able to do it. But I like the parity within the league. I think that, I think the league's problem more is finding who that next star is as opposed to finding who the next super team is. Because we've got spoiled with getting Michael Jordan and then right into Shaq, and then Shaq right into Kobe, and then Kobe right into LeBron, and then LeBron right into Steph, but then LeBron and Steph are still here along with Kevin Durant. I think their bigger problem is who's going to take that mantle, and is it going to be an American that takes that mantle? Because obviously we could give it to Jokic or to Giannis, but we haven't.
So isn't SGA American?
He's Canadian.
Isn't that still an American?
Yeah, well, he is American. No, maybe I should say United States. He is still American. And I guess I heard them ask the question earlier.
America,
he's from North America, so he kind of works a little bit. I heard him ask the question, though, does this solidify himself as now a new superstar in the league? Because some people were kind of iffy on, is he a superstar? Is he an all-star? Do you think he solidified himself now with capping off a historic season as a superstar within the league now?
So I put him in the same vein as a so let's go back a little bit. The thing that was, and I'll ask you this, was Kawhi ever a superstar?
Nope.
Okay.
Not in my opinion.
Okay,
most people would agree with that. Would disagree.
Okay. So my question is, with him having an MVP level season, MVP level performance, I think superstar comes in when it's what you do for an encore. I don't think you can have one great year, because again, my bar for superstar is up here. I don't think you can win a couple games or have a 40-game stretch like Linsanity and all of a sudden become a superstar. Yeah. I don't think that's how it works. So let's look at who we have as superstars in the league. We certainly can say LeBron is a superstar, absolutely, right? And we know what that has meant for him to be. I mean, he literally was the best player in the league for 15 straight years.
Yeah, easily.
So, and then Jokic is clearly a superstar. Mm-hmm. And I would say he in the rare situation, he was a 2-time MVP and still not a superstar.
Yeah, I agree with that.
He didn't achieve superstar status, in my opinion, until after they won
In 23,
after they won the championship. You have a guy like Jason Tatum, who is a NBA champion, and came back after being an NBA champion, had a very good season. But is he a superstar?
There's a lot of question marks around that.
No, he's not. Let's be honest. No, he's not. No, he's not.
I can agree with that.
And so, can you elevate now? Again, how much credit do you get? So MVP, championship, and if SGA comes back another season and has an NBA, MVP level performance next year, or wins a championship next year, I think that's when he'll solidify himself as a bona fide superstar.
Yeah.
Because what he doesn't have is the fame and notoriety.
Yes.
Now, I would say this. This is where a guy like Ant-Man has the edge on him. Because
Absolutely.
Ant-Man already has the fame and notoriety.
Yep.
He just doesn't have the accomplishments. So if this were Ant-Man who actually won the MVP.
Oh, yeah.
And you understand what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
definitely.
If he had won the MVP and won a championship, boom, he's a bona fide superstar,
Right away.
marquee player.
Right away.
I think because of SGA, and it may be his foreign affiliation. It may be that he's not American, but I also think it's a couple things conspiring against him. It's the market that he plays in.
Absolutely.
It's his low-key kind of personality, And the third thing, and people might disagree with me, but he doesn't have a high-flying, dynamic
That plays
game.
a part into it,
So yeah.
When you look at all his highlights, it's going to be more or less of the same stuff over and over. We're not going to see a free throw line dunk. We're not going to see a fadeaway three-point shot falling out. It's going to be more of the same normal stuff, kind of like a Tim Duncan. How much did Tim Duncan have to do before people consider him to be a superstar in the league? And Oklahoma City is a small market. SGA doesn't have a flashy game to go with it.
In my opinion, I think, and you may argue with me or what, but I think there are probably 4 superstars in the league.
Okay.
Giannis, LeBron, Steph. I'm missing one. Jokic.
So you take Kevin Durant out of the superstar.
Oh no, Kevin Durant for sure.
That's my fifth one. After that, I agree with you. I don't see. I think Luka could have been there, but he's gonna have to rebound and kind of get his image back after the last couple of years losing.
Well, I'll even say this: Luka is right on the cusp of a superstar.
Yeah,
he has everything.
Everything.
Besides the he's right on his cusp. But I liken him to a guy like Luka, Kyrie, Jason Tatum, Ant-Man. There's a few other guys. Shea.
Yeah.
All those guys are right there. Because when you talk about LeBron, Giannis, Steph, KD, you're talking Jokic. You're talking about all those guys have 10 years of
absolutely
of excellent play. And I don't think there's anybody of that second group that sustained it for that long. They've had some highs and also some lows.
I think Tatum probably has the best case for it just because he's been successful since day one. But the lackluster, nonchalant type of attitude, I think that goes into it. I think my formula for a superstar is the accolades meet the off-court praise and the off-court notoriety as well. They got to kind of mix with each other. Nikola Jokic being one of the only few exceptions. He really doesn't even really care about basketball, but he's so great when he's on the court. And he's won, and he's got 3 MVPs now. You have to put him within that status. But an Ant-Man, like you said, I agree 100%. If he would have won the MVP, we'd already been talking about face of the league. It wouldn't be a conversation of who's going to take the man. They would already have commercials. It would have been like which they already kind of have. It was just kind of prematurely. But I don't think there's that many superstars in the league. I think they throw around that term way too. They're calling Brunson a superstar, all the time. I'm like,
no.
You can't.
Brunson isn't even on the same tier.
No,
as is on. He's not those second tier guys. He's a third tier guy.
Yeah, he's below Jason Tatum and all those.
Yeah.
I have to be able to drop you off in any market on any team, and success becomes immediate. I could do that with Giannis. LeBron has proven he can do that. I could do that with Jokic.
I put Jason. I put Brunson in the same category as a Book.
Yeah.
And
Devin Booker.
Devin Booker. Those guys like those are good. Those are really good
perennial all-stars.
Perennial all-stars.
But not superstar.
Yeah.
I think that superstar word gets thrown around way too. Every time somebody has a couple of good, now they're a superstar. SGA, if they want to start calling him one, okay, I get it. He's got a championship. He's got 2 or 3 scoring titles now.
But the superstar, I don't think SGA, his image is synonymous with NBA, and that has to be one of the deals that makes you a superstar. What makes LeBron a superstar is you post his image up. You don't have to wonder what sport he plays.
Yep, absolutely.
Same with Steph, KD. Those guys, and
they transcend basketball.
Yeah. So when you talk about superstar, now those are great players. That second tier guys we're talking about. But I don't think they're superstars. And it's funny in the NBA, man. It's really different. If in 2003 you asked me who is the next guy most likely, not 2003 but 2023, after that playoff run, you say who's the next emerging superstar? I would have gave you John Morant.
Yeah,
no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's a bona fide. He's on his way to being a superstar.
For sure.
To some degree, I would have said, barring injury, my man in New Orleans was on his way.
Zion, definitely.
Zion.
Yeah. Yes.
But with Zion's injury issues, John Morant's lack of maturity.
Yeah, it's the best way to put it. Lack of maturity.
Lack of maturity. Those guys, weren't able to make it, and so with the hype train really behind those guys, right?
Absolutely.
And to me, the NBA has had to kind of reshape.
They did
who they pushed to the forefront, and then in a lot of cases, I think Ant-Man it was behind those guys in 2023, and he's leapfrogged those guys. Even though he had a huge setback, in my opinion, when he lost to Dallas in the finals last year.
In the Western Conference Finals.
In the Western Conference Finals. But again, I just think this face of the league, this superstardom in the NBA, is such an unpredictable circumstance.
This is the first time since I've been a fan that we don't know who the next star. Like, we knew who the stars at all times, at least since I've been watching. At all times, we knew who the star was, and we probably knew who the next star was. Even with LeBron and his excellence and what he was able to do, as soon as Kobe retired, Steph was ascending and winning his second MVP. So we had the Stephs. Then we had Giannis, who's got multiple MVPs, multiple Defensive Players of the Year, a champion. Jokic, multiple MVPs, and I don't know if Anthony Edwards is a multiple MVP type of guy. I would want him to. I like him as a player. I don't know if he's a guy that can win 3 MVPs.
Well, I think what kind of happened to the NBA is Steph extended his prime.
Yep.
Of course, LeBron extended his prime.
Yep.
KD has extended his prime, right?
Absolutely.
And the guys coming behind those guys just hadn't had this sustained, and notice I use the word sustained success that they had in their prime.
Yeah.
You don't understand what I'm saying? Like when LeBron was at his prime, in his prime of being achieving superstar status, he went to the championship 9 years in a row.
Crazy.
KD went to several finals and won 2 of them with Golden State.
Yep.
Took a very young OKC team to face LeBron. Then you had Giannis winning a couple MVPs and then ultimately getting a championship. So you had these ascensions to and again, they had these windows of championship. Giannis being the only one that really didn't have a window of success, but he was such a dominant player.
He was so dominant within those years,
Yeah, and then now Jokic is in the middle of a pretty good run, even though he hasn't had the championship run, when you put a couple of the MVPs and his performance in the playoffs,
Yes.
right? He's just been incredible.
Absolutely.
He's been incredible. And so you can't – no one else can really argue with it. If you try to throw Tatum in there, you got to look at SGA. SGA had a couple bad games. Some would say even 3 bad games.
I think in each series he had a couple of bad games that could have lost them the series. I mean, they won now, so we all forget about it. But if Aaron Gordon doesn't completely tear his hamstring off his leg almost, do they even win in the second round? They went to 7 games with – this is probably the worst Nuggets team that the Nuggets have had in the last 3 or 4 years since they won their championship. And that went to a Game 7 that took Aaron Gordon, who was averaging like 20 and 10 in that series, to tear his hamstring completely.
So this is just my 2 cents. My 2 cents. Looking at how they played the whole series and looking what Indiana was able to do. If they play the Lakers in that series, I think the Lakers give them probably as good a series or even more difficult series than either one of the teams that they faced.
Absolutely. That would be the most star power they faced in the entire playoffs.
Yeah.
Jokic did what Jokic did, but like I said, this was the worst Denver team out there.
Well, there was no number 2.
There was no number. That's what I'm saying. There's no number 2.
Yeah.
Then they played the Timberwolves, who I think kind of just
Timberwolves was just a bad matchup for the Lakers. I think they were just a bad matchup.
They're not a 2-time back-to-back going to the Western Conference Finals type of team that you think of. I think they both years just got good matchups outside of the heroic series against Denver they had last year. But I don't even know if they're a top 5 team in the West, being honest, Minnesota. So obviously OKC took care of them. Indiana has no superstar. You can say we're going to stop Tyrese Halliburton, but his game is not to score anyway. And even with that being said, you went to Game 7, and he might have gave y'all a 30-piece if he didn't tear his Achilles, because he had 9 points in 7 minutes.
Yeah.
He might have gave y'all a 30-piece if that didn't happen. I don't see, and they've had the conversation, and I ask you, is this an all-time great team? All the statistics say this is an all-time great type of team. They won 68 games. They were number 1 in like 10 defensive categories. I'm not putting this team as an all-time great team. I don't know if we put the last 10 NBA champions up, do they beat any of the last 10 NBA champions?
The only team I see them beat is Toronto.
Yeah,
okay. I think they beat Toronto.
Because they shouldn't have. Well, I ain't gonna say shouldn't have. They wouldn't have won if KD didn't.
Yeah, I don't think they beat Toronto. But to their credit, I don't think Indiana beats any of those teams either.
Not even a chance. I don't think Indiana beats Boston if Jason Tatum was healthy this year.
So and that's one of the things about it. I think here's the deal. Does Indiana get more than a victory against any team other than Toronto?
We're talking about the champions.
Yeah, like that. Like, do they get they get one? I believe they'll
beat Milwaukee in a game, maybe 21 Milwaukee in a game. I mean, Indiana's one of those scrappy type teams.
And if you look at and here's the deal, that this is something that people may not agree with, but I certainly agree with. If you look at the last 7 champions and just evaluating rosters, I don't think there's a better roster than the 2020 LA Lakers. If you just look at the roster.
I say that. I feel like I say it almost every single year. That 2020 Lakers team, whether if you give them an extended run, because they broke the team up literally right after that, and they had to start another season a month after they just won a championship. So that played a factor into why they didn't go back again. That 2020 Lakers squad is probably beaten, outside of the KD Warriors, they're probably beaten every other team that they would play. That 2020
like I say, you got to realize the KD Warriors, the KD Warriors were over by the time by the time they won it.
Yeah,
so
they did.
So what you end up with is, could they beat the Draymond, Wiggins?
Oh, they destroying them.
Jordan Poole.
They're destroying
Warriors.
them. That team was lucky that Giannis got hurt, because Giannis would have destroyed that Golden State team. And Steph ended up getting another one. That was good for his career and all that. But that was almost like how I think of this OKC Thunder team. That's kind of how I think of the 22 Golden State Warriors. Like, y'all got some good matchups and some guys got hurt.
So
yeah.
So with that being the case, we're going down another conversation that we can have if you want to have it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So in the last 7 years, let's kind of look at those. I'm looking at them. So,
okay.
So we got, let's go 2019. And then the series KD gets hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? 2020, they had a long break.
Yeah.
In the bubble. Everybody seems to make it through. I don't think there were any major injuries in the bubble, were there?
No, not that happened in the bubble.
I don't know that 2021 they had any major injuries with the Phoenix Suns and the Bucks. I think they were largely healthy.
Yeah, both of those, and they were the two best teams in the league. I think when they met each other, Phoenix won 60-plus games.
And then Golden State and Boston Celtics. I don't know why I want to remember somebody got hurt. I don't know if Smart got hurt that series or somebody. There was I can't remember.
With Boston, Smart was hurt in that series. Tatum was a little bit limped in that series as well. Jalen Brown had missed time the series before then because that's when Tatum had that 40-point game in Game 7 against the Sixers.
Jokic and the Heat were largely Butler didn't get hurt that series or anything like that. That was pretty much Boston and the Mavericks. Did Luka play all?
He was hobbled. He was hobbled pretty much in the whole playoffs, but I don't think they were going to beat them.
And then of course
anyway.
this series we have Halliburton being injured, suffering a significant injury.
Yep.
We have also on top of that Tatum. Was it the 7th game that Tatum went out in?
He went out in Game 4, I believe, right before they were going to take a 3-1 lead. The Knicks were about to take a 3-1 lead. He went out in Game 4.
Okay. So have we gotten to the place where the playoffs are too long?
I don't know. I've heard them, toy around with the idea of taking the first round back to 5 games like it was, 80s and 90s. To try to eliminate that. Is the playoffs too long? Is the season too long? Probably. I don't know if the playoffs are too long. I think it gives us the truest champion in sports because of how many games you got to go through. I definitely think the regular season is too long.
So here's my problem, I think, with the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
First off, if you compare the playoffs to regular season, it's a different game.
Yeah, it's
not even the same game.
It's the second season. That's what a lot of them call it, the second season.
It ain't even the same game. So what I think happens is the players play at an intensity for 2 months that they don't even come close to reaching in the 6 months that they play the regular season.
Yep, that's true.
And so so you do one of two things. You have your players play with that playoff intensity so that they can condition themselves over an entire season to play game in and game out with that playoff intensity, or you have to shorten the playoffs because it's like the game is literally a different game in the playoffs. Like the players don't play that hard, and I think that's one reason why OKC had an historic season because they were one of the few teams that could sustain a level of intensity the entire season, not driven by their will to win or anything like that, but driven simply by their youth and their exuberance and their skill, of course. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think when we get to the point where the youngest team in the NBA is the best team, what is the NBA really rewarding now? When the youngest team is the best team, the most inexperienced team is the best team. Now, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. With the level of physicality that was allowed, particularly in the playoffs and in the championship, I don't know that that's sustainable over a course of a whole, because it was literally a boxing match / football game.
It was one of the most physical playoffs that I've watched, especially if we're talking about from the 2010s and up. This is probably the most physical playoffs from each and every playoff level. We watched all the games be physical, even starting with that Golden State and Rockets series. I think that was one of the most physical ones. That's why the scores was like 81-85 in a lot of those games. I agree. I don't know if shortening the playoffs and the injuries have now created another conversation of, we tried to, even Adam Silver tried to dip out this load management thing that came in that everybody wanted to start complaining about. And I think we're at a time, because of what you just talked about, the two different intensities, the length of the season, where teams are going to have to load manage. I think it's going to become a necessity, because I was watching some videos, a couple different, people, analytics guys that come on there and say that now players are running in the NBA just from, I believe he said, just from 2015 alone, which is just 10 years ago, are running 200 plus more miles a year in the NBA. So now we're seeing Achilles used to be, man, if you get an Achilles, I remember when Kobe tore his Achilles, I'm like, dang, nobody in the NBA really tears their Achilles. When Dominique tore his Achilles in the 90s, it's like a career ender. Same with Dan Marino tore his Achilles. It's like a career ender. Now we're seeing 3 superstars in a 1-month span just tore their Achilles playing in the same conference. A lot of that is due to much more running. The pace of the game is a lot higher now. The length of the season catching up. And then the pressure from, especially in the last few years of, man, you can't load manage. You guys got to go out there and play. Man, these dudes played 82 back in the day. You got to play 82 games. I don't even know if playing 82 games is a possible thing now, because eventually either your body will give up in the regular season or your body can give out in these playoffs.
So, okay. Style of play, does style of play indicate that let me kind of unpack this, what I'm thinking. The style of play dictate that if you have some form of load management during the season, that you institute some type of load management in the playoffs.
I think the only way that you can try it, but I mean, if you lose, it's not going to work. I think the only way you implement load management in the playoffs, you do like the Warriors used to do and just beat everybody by 20 or 30. And
what I'm saying is, if guys are playing with that level of intensity and it's not replicated in the season at any point, how, and I understand that you spread it out because you spread it out, but I'm just thinking you have to be able to do something, because guys run more. It's a motion-based NBA now. All guys, there's no guy that goes down on the offense, stands on the post, and turns around and throws his hand up and you throw the ball inside. That's not the game anymore. There's nobody just standing in one place watching Elijah Wan, do the dream shake, or watching Kareem do a hook shot. There's none of that anymore. Or watching Shaq tear the rim down.
Yeah.
Everybody, all 5 players are engaged or expected to be engaged on offense. Thus, offense dictating the pace, defenders have to chase and move and whatever. And to your point, with them running 200 more miles during the season, there has to be something to address the fatigue and the wear and tear of the players. And I don't know if that's shortening the season or shortening the number of games or shortening the playoffs. I think the playoffs, and I would say this. I would say making the first 2 series 5 games, game series, would be a really – because ultimately what you want is the best 2 teams in the finals.
Yeah.
In the finals of each conference finals. And you want those teams relatively healthy. And I think, for better or for worse, shortening the first 2 series gives you the best chance to get the best 2 teams healthy.
I agree.
Healthy in the playoffs.
Especially in the last few years. I know every year that health has something to do with it, but I feel like in the last few years, it's definitely, once we get down to, like you said, second round, conference finals games, we're starting to see more and more injuries from stars too at that. They've got to do something to address that, whether that's shortening it at the moment, because I don't see them shortening it because they'll have to give money back because they're not going to have as many games, and the NBA is never going to do that. What I think coaches will make the first adjustments of, we're probably not going to see guys playing 40 minutes. I mean, it was regular to see your starting lineup be like Tibbs starting lineups where everybody's playing 41 minutes a game and then the bench comes in somewhat to offset that. I think 35, 33 minutes a game will be more of what we're going to go into seeing, even stars playing now, because you've got to be able to sustain that throughout. The depth of OKC helped them a lot this year. They reminded me a lot of, those Warriors teams where Steph would – the year Steph averaged 30, he only averaged like 30 minutes a game, because most of the time by the fourth quarter, they're destroying everybody, so they're not even going to play most of those games. If you don't have a team that can do that, you've got to try to find either ways to load manage, ways to take minutes away, or maybe just building more depth. We saw not only two of the younger teams in the league get to the finals this year, but the two deepest teams, honestly, in the entire league, with the Pacers and the Thunder, outside of the Celtics, because the Celtics got hurt, made it to the finals. So I think that'll kind of change and critique the way that coaches and GMs now build out their team, knowing I really need to have 11 guys that can play, 12 guys that can play, as opposed to, man, if we can just get an 8-man rotation going, a 9-man rotation will be good. I think you're going to have to use depth more now with the way that it's going. So
this bringing us to, some of the movement that's happening in the NBA now. Do you think depth is the reason for a lot of this movement? And again, a lot of this movement isn't really frontline superstars, just actually backups and reserves that are happening now. Do you think that's what teams are doing?
I think teams will do that, and I think that, Boston, their move was kind of an interesting one, because they're trying to stay competitive because they see how weak the East is. But I think with these two teams, like I said, having a lot of depth on it, and honestly, with these two teams having a lack of star power, regardless of how we want to look at Shea or Jalen Williams or Chet, it's not the same as going to the finals and you're going against Steph. It's not the same as going to the finals and you're going against LeBron. I think that teams are seeing that the league is more wide open right now than it's probably ever been, and it reflects in the fact that we have 7 different champions 7 years in a row now. So I think more teams are putting their name in the hat as far as being a contender now than that we've seen in a long time because of that.
So with that being said, if you had to put some money on this bet, OKC against the field, who are you taking?
I'm taking the field. 7 years of history is what I got to go against. That ain't nobody did it in 7 years to be able to repeat. The Thunder have the best chance to be able to repeat, but I spent this entire season saying, oh, Boston's going back to the championship, and Boston's going to win the championship. They got a deep team. All their stars are under contract. We don't know. All it takes is one injury, and this whole thing is different. And one of the guys that stayed healthy this year really didn't stay healthy but's been perennially injured is Chet Holmgren. What if Chet gets hurt? That changes everything, because no, he wasn't a big scorer in these finals or in the playoffs, but that 5 or 6 blocks he had in Game 7, the 4 or 5 blocks he had in Game 5, those are huge.
Hey, breaking news while we're on live on the air. It says this is Shams Charania. It says Boston, Atlanta, and Brooklyn are finalizing a 3-team trade that sends Kristaps Porzingis and a second-round pick to the Hawks, Terrence Mann, and Atlanta's 22nd pick to the Nets, and George Niang and his second-rounder to the Celtics. Looks like the Celtics traded for George Niang to get some depth. Looks like, Atlanta wanted a pick.
Yeah. This is about Porzingis. They've been trying to move off even before the Drew Holiday one, which kind of caught me off guard. They've been trying to move off Porzingis really since the end of this year. I think that relationship fizzled out. Last year, we know he was big for them in the finals. But this year, with him missing almost the entire season, and then in the playoffs, he couldn't give you anything. And I was just watching the show yesterday, and they were talking about this mysterious illness that Porzingis has. They haven't disclosed whatever the illness is. I guess it's something that's not contagious, but it's kept him out of playing for like majority of this year and still keeping him out of playing right now. I don't know what it is, or I don't know why they haven't disclosed it, but they've been trying to move off Porzingis. That's a salary dump. They had to get under the hard cap. They were so much over the luxury taxes, the main reason why they got off of Drew, and then now them getting off Porzingis has now dipped them way under that tax bracket now to where they won't have to pay all those penalties.
There's another one that happened a little bit before we went on air, and it's New Orleans is trading. They're trading C.J. McCollum, Kelly Olynyk, and a future second-round pick to the Washington Wizards for Jordan Poole and Saddiq Bey. And for the number 40th pick in Wednesday's NBA draft. Look like they're swapping second-round picks. Well, they're getting a Washington's getting a second-round pick, and they get a chance to unload Jordan Poole as well. Looks like the Pelicans are kind of
this one was kind of
unloading their roster.
It was kind of interesting to me to see that trade because I don't know if this is like the Tank Olympics to see who can get worse by trading McCollum to the Wizards. I don't know. I think the Wizards are trying to make a change, and they've got a decent amount of veterans. I think Marcus Smart just opted back in. He's going to be there again next year. Chris Middleton just opted back. Obviously, he's 30-something million. He opted back in this contract on the Wizards. Now they trade for CJ. So either they can try to build some veterans and try to do anything slightly competitive and build those young guys so they're not just – I mean, there's some guys on the Wizards that have just been losers for 5 years and haven't done anything. They want to kind of change that. On the Pelican side, 100% tank. They're trying to tank. When you go and get Jordan Poole, you're not trying to get better. That just is what it is. Jordan Poole's a cool guy, but he plays like the gym is full of women. That's how he plays basketball. Everything is some type of flashy, no-look pattern. It's all there's no substance to the game. So they're trying to tank for sure. The Wizards side, not exactly sure what they're doing. Like I said, maybe they're trying to build some vets around these young guys to help break that culture of losing every single game that they have for the last 5 or 6 years. But yeah, that one was kind of puzzling to me. I don't know if you know which direction either team is trying to go with trading for CJ and then trading for Jordan Poole on the Pelican side. But yeah, there's a lot of player movement going on. Obviously, the draft is tomorrow, so that's obviously going to dictate a lot of player movement each and every year. Guys are trying to position themselves to get guys in the draft. The Porzingis one, like I said, I think that was about moving guys away. Drew Holiday getting traded back to the Blazers. I understand why Boston did it. Not really sure why the Trailblazers did it. I think the Trailblazers are another one of those. They're like the Rockets a couple of years ago. A lot of good young players just really don't know how to put it together, and they're trying to get a right decent mix of vets. Chauncey Billups is actually kind of turning that program around there. But a lot of these guys, these are salary dumps. Honestly, they're trying to people trying to get under the cap.
And in other NBA news, it seems like finally after 4 years, the Minnesota Timberwolves they're finalizing the sale where they went for a whopping $1.5 billion to an ownership group that includes Mark Lure and former baseball star Alex Rodriguez. I thought this had already been done, but it seems like it's been held up for 51 months trying to get this deal done. The agreement also includes ownership of the Minnesota Lynx. So
yeah, I see the NBA owners had to approve it, I think. For the sale to go through, and that sale has finally went through.
They got a discount in considering what the
1.5. I don't care what franchise you're getting.
What the Lakers got. What the Bucks family get, about $10 million?
$10 billion.
$10 billion?
$10 billion with a B. So, they didn't Michael Jordan sell the Hornets for like $2 billion?
Yeah.
That's crazy. The Timberwolves, I don't know if somebody got robbed in the deal or if somebody got a great deal. But getting the sale for 1.5.
Well, you also got to understand, I think the Lakers include the Staples Center. So
yeah, well, the Lakers, of course, they definitely should be even if it didn't include, they should be head above every other sale. Boston sold for 6.1, I believe it was, the beginning of this year. The Lakers being $10 billion sounds right. They're probably the most valuable sports franchise outside of the Dallas Cowboys.
Looks like this is one of those deals where the sale being final. Mm-hmm. Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lure move in with a little equity because the team, the last Forbes estimate is that the team was worth $2.9 billion. So
absolutely.
So they have a little equity already built up in the franchise. So I'm sure they're, that sale again. They've been at it for 4 years trying to get this thing finalized. Looks like it's a really good deal for everybody, and so we'll see if that encourages the Minnesota Timberwolves to make some moves.
Yeah, to build a team around Ant. I feel like the last couple of years, I think they kind of just ended up in the Western Conference. I don't want to say it like they're not a good team, but the matchups dictated them getting to the Western Conference Finals. I feel like they have yet to really build a team around Anthony Edwards. I don't know if they're ahead of schedule, if maybe they didn't think they were going to be this good this early, but now with the franchise sale being finalized, Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lure probably have a little more enthusiasm to go out and make some moves and spend some extra money, especially if you got some built-in equity now that the sale is finally going through. I knew it had to be worth more than that. Like I said, if the Hornets, who have to be the bottom franchise for almost every American sport, if they sell for $2 or $3 billion, you got to be worth at least that, whatever they sold for. So, yeah, shout out to them, man, and getting away from their former owners that, KG always had a lot to say about their former ownership group down there in Minnesota. They get the links to go along with it as well. So we'll see if that helps them make any difference. I want to hit a couple local topics here in a second, but before we get off the NBA, gotta ask what's your thoughts on Kevin Durant going to the Rockets, man? Because I'm waiting a little bit before I come out here fully in my Rockets gear with a Kevin Durant jersey on when they go on sale to start calling them the 26 champs.
I think Jalen Green for essentially Kevin Durant is an upgrade, no doubt.
Yeah.
It makes him viable next year. Unfortunately, Kevin Durant only has 1 year on his deal. And I don't know how good a deal it is if he's not retained the following year with the Rockets. So I think they have to get that deal done for it to really make sense for me.
Mm-hmm.
If you go out and win a championship next year and then Kevin Durant goes to another team or retires, it leaves some big holes in your roster.
Yeah.
But again, with all the player movement happening, maybe the Rockets have another something else up their sleeve, and maybe they can bring somebody else alongside. Like I said, Houston had a really good young team.
Mm-hmm.
They played really well. Nowadays, just energy and effort in the NBA gives you a chance, night in and night out in the regular season. And so I think they'll be better, especially in crunch time. And we saw that they had an issue in the playoffs in their series.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't sure as to who is the go-to guy in crunch time. That situation has been remedied by Kevin Durant joining the team. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's one of those things. The playoff really exposed Houston. Like you said, effort is going to get you a long way in the regular season, especially when you got a young team. Same with Oklahoma City. Effort is going to get you a long way. Rockets are a great defensive team as well. We gave up one of our better defenders in Dylan Brooks, but Jalen Green was, and a lot of people say, they moved off of Jalen Green too early. We don't know how long the championship window is going to be open. You don't want to give Jalen Green 2 or 3 years. We don't win a championship. Now you have to make a decision on, do you want to pay him another $300-something million when you know he's not even our best player. The best player on the team is Amen Thompson. That's who the future of the team is. So if they're going to choose between Thompson or Jalen Green, Jalen Green's got to be on his way out, man. And obviously after his playoff performance, you go single digits 5 out of the 7 games in the first round against the Golden State team that I think was probably their worst playoff team in 10 years that Golden State has had. Some changes have to be made. Going against Kevin Durant solves a lot of that, especially in the half-court offense. So I love it. Obviously, I'm a Rockets fan, so I love the deal. But I think it'll definitely be big and something that we'll be able to discuss more as we get further and closer to the next NBA season starting, because we don't know what players are going to be on the move. We haven't had free agency yet. And obviously, with just the last couple of days, the trade buzz has been off the charts as far as people moving around. So we'll see what other deals go out. Tomorrow, the draft starts in the NBA. Their first time doing it 2 days now, I guess, trying to be kind of like the NFL. Mm-hmm. So they split it up, round 1 and round 2. Tomorrow, round 1 will be taking place. We all know Cooper Flag is going number 1 to the Dallas Mavericks.
Yeah, he won't get Shadored, will he?
Yeah, no, he's not. But there is somebody that's already in the possibility of getting Shadored. I guess we can start using that as a term. And Ace Bailey, who was an outspoken young dude, projected, I think, the second best player in the draft is Ace Bailey. I love what he did at Rutgers last year. But in his workout process the last couple of weeks, didn't participate in a lot of the combine drills. He reportedly said, I'm not working out for multiple teams. He refused workouts for them and is not going. And now in the mock drafts, I'm seeing him go from number 2, which he was all year long, now to like 4 or 5. Now I see in some mock drafts he's 6 or 7. So with this kind of taking place at the same time as Shador thing, do you think that – I don't think it was wise for him to reject some of those workouts and different things like that because, it's out of your hands. You can't decide who you're going to get drafted by. But with the potential of him slipping now, what do you think about Ace Bailey's actions the last couple of weeks, I guess, going along with that?
In my opinion, man, in the NBA, it's situation anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a quality player as an NBA prospect, you're so rare, And NBA is a different league.
Yeah, yes it is.
NBA is not it is a news cycle league. It is a highlight league. It's a social media league. It's not driven by ratings or anything like that. NBA is popular because of the stories and the things that accompany it. You know what I mean? NBA is kind of funny. Like you literally could have a game that doesn't rate very well on television. However, taking the content that is created from the game, post it on social media, and it does millions. It does millions. So NBA is a different league, whereas the NFL is driven usually by ratings, which people have to tune in and all that kind of stuff. So I just think it's a different sport altogether, man. And I just think, him not working out won't appeal, won't have the same backlash that maybe it would have if it was in the NBA. And at the end of the day, he may be thinking like Dion in this regard. What pick you got?
Yeah, exactly.
I picked seventh. Oh, I won't be here. There ain't no use to me working out for you.
I'm pretty sure that's what he did.
I won't be here at 7.
I think that the teams that he denied, they didn't come out and say it, but I'm pretty sure it was those teams at 6, 7, 8, 9. Like, bro, I'm not going to be there at 6, 7, so I'm not going to do a 2-hour workout for you.
And then the other side of it, think about this. Do you risk not taking a guy that's potentially, I'm just going to say a player like that's potentially Scottie Pippen, for a guy that's his best chance of making the team is as a rotational player?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, if you are a projected starter or even a superstar on the NBA level, that is so rare, so rare. And I just think in the NBA, you don't have the luxury of being that particular in who you draft.
Yeah.
Because
only 2 rounds.
Yeah, it's
only
only 2
a lot of
rounds.
differences between them and the NFL.
A first-round player generally makes the team. Second-round players, they end up going to G
Straight
League.
to G League.
Stuff like that. So those first-round picks are so valuable, and you can't really gamble on a player who's not talented.
Especially in the top 10. That's the main one of the main differences between the NFL and the NBA. You can still think, hey, we got a 10-year starter at pick 32 in the NFL draft. In the NBA draft, once you get out of the lottery, you're just picking a guy who's a guy that can be a rotation guy for us.
So do you want a guy like Ace Bailey to fall to a team like the Lakers?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like what are you doing? If you let a guy like Ace Bailey fall to the Lakers, just because you
didn't like what he said. That'll make much sense.
You didn't like because he didn't work out. And essentially, this is kind of crazy. It's the same thing. Because Shador didn't do well in a meeting with the New York Giants, all the other sorry-ass teams ain't going to draft him either. Like, that don't even make no sense.
We just all going to take the word of what the Giants said, like they have the best interest for everybody else in the league at the same that doesn't make any sense at all.
And, in that news, we hadn't talked much about Shador since then, I just want to pick this up.
Yeah, go ahead.
It turns out, everything that's been coming out of camp has been validated by not the coaching staff, but the media personnel. Like when they had the open workouts, it was clear by everybody there, even somebody who was really, I think Mary Kay, the lady who was really rooting for Dylan Gabriel, and she was like, hey, coach, she was asking Coach Reeves.
Mm-hmm.
Clearly, Shedeur is having the better results, and clearly he's, the
best quarterback out
well,
there.
yeah, he's has
out of those two for sure.
Yeah. What are you guys gonna do to get Dylan Gabriel up to speed? Is what she was asking, and he was like, he really was. He was politicking in a way that tried to make it seem like, but ultimately, he was like, these are OTAs. But we all know that if it's the shoes on the other foot and he wasn't doing as well, your results are your results, and this, you know what I mean. You know how it would be positioned, but I say this. The NFL is a competitive league, and whether you can lie to me, you can lie to even the press, but the players know.
Yeah, they know. They know.
And if you want to maintain the credibility of your team and your players, you have to roll the best guy out there. You have to roll the guy that can ball out there. And so hopefully that's my only saving grace in this, that it cannot be close for Shedeur. He has to overwhelmingly, I say, be better than Dylan Gabriel, overwhelmingly.
Yeah. And
then number two, he has to pretty much do everything off the field right. And he's gotten off to, again, when has a speeding ticket really been
front page news on ESPN?
But I think that's a function of him being a superstar.
Absolutely.
More so than a college superstar anyway, more so than anything else, that they're covering a speeding ticket.
Yeah, I mean, if you go on ESPN's website, they only put 7 headlines on there. He made one of the 7 headlines for a speeding ticket. Like, okay, like Antonio Brown was wanted for murder. Like, and y'all gonna put this as a speeding ticket up here in the front page
Let's
news.
be correct,
attempted murder. My bad. He's wanted for attempted murder. So yeah, that's crazy. But Ace Bailey, I agree with you. I think it's not gonna affect too much. The dude is 6'8", and he's the best shot maker in the draft. So at the end of the day, he's gonna go within the top 5. We'll see. That draft is tomorrow. I believe it starts at 7:00. We'll see where Ace Bailey falls in there. We all know Cooper Flagg is going in there. Shout out to the former Baylor Bear, now the VJ Edgecombe. I think he's going to be a top 5 pick in this year's draft as well. Want to hit a couple local topics real quick before I switch to some NFL. Like I said yesterday, folks, we've got, I believe, 4 or 5 teams competing in the state 7-on-7 tournament that's going to start this week out there in College Station. So make sure you guys are supporting your local teams, man. La Vega, Midway will be playing. I believe Waco High is in there as well. And Bosqueville and China Spring, I think, will all be represented in this state 7-on-7 tournament. So definitely shout out to those kids. And we'll be keeping an eye on those guys to see if one of our teams can make it to that final championship game this weekend in the state 7-on-7 tournament.
So let me ask you this. Mm-hmm. Does a successful 7-on-7 as a Waco High alumnus, and can anything be, can we gain anything from an appearance in the 7-on-7 state championship?
I absolutely think so. I think that could give a lot of momentum and just help those guys get some confidence going into the season. If they're able to go out there and compete. Now, they're in a tough pool to start it off. They're in there with Cinco Ranch and EP Eastwood, I think, is a decent team as well, too. They didn't get as tough as a draw as Midway. Midway's got a really, really tough. I was trying to find their group on there, but Midway's got a pretty tough group that they have to be in as well. But, yeah, hopefully Waco High can come out, at least get out of group play, I think would help. Oh, yeah, Midway's in the group Pool D with Alamo Heights, DeSoto, and then Willis, who are all really good teams. So Midway's got a pretty tough draw. Waco High, if they can get out of the group round, I think that is a plus for the team moving forward. Now, a lot of people say, you can't read a lot in the 7-on-7. Dudes don't have on pads. There's no line. And a lot of factors that are different.
There's no blocking. There's no tackling.
Yeah, no tackling, no blocking, no hitting. There's a lot of things that make people stray away from the 7-on-7.
Again, this is another – but again, this is almost what I think about the combine, kind of like the underwear Olympics.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much.
But I think their program is at a point where any level of success they have at this point is only them building momentum into a season where they are, not much is expected out of them. but they do have a new coach.
Mm-hmm.
He's installing a new culture, and I think it's all positive if they're able to have some success in the 7-on-7, and maybe they can parlay that into some success in this upcoming season. Again, there's not much expectation for them, so anything they do is
gravy on top.
Is gravy. But I'm, as a Waco High fan and somebody who loves the Lions and who is a proud Lion, I really long for the days to where we were and we are one of the better teams in Texas high school football. So
I think Waco High, they've got a long road to get back to that, but you've got to start somewhere. You got to take some steps forward first. So this 7-on-7 could be a thing like that because confidence is huge, especially going into the season. I think last year we were all at that scrimmage. I don't think that did anything to help their confidence. You go out there in a scrimmage, before you even get to start the season and lose to a team that's 2 or 3 divisions below you. This could help with confidence building, getting ready for this season upcoming. They're not in a toughest district as they were, 3-4 years ago when they were in there with DeSoto and Duncanville and all this kind of stuff. So you got to take some small victories to be able to build that up. We know it's possible because we just watched University do it. As bad as Waco High has been before the last 5 years of University, I mean, they were at one point in time when I was in high school, I think they won, I think from my sophomore year through maybe a couple years after I graduated, they won like 2 games for like a 5-year stretch. And look at to where they are now, to where they're almost a premier team in Central Texas and in Texas going forward. So it's possible. Got to take small steps to get to that spot. We watched Midway do it. Midway was pretty terrible the last few years, and then like the last 3 years, they've kind of ticked it up and up and up and up to get back to where they're at right now. So shout out to Waco High, man, and shout out to all those teams in the Central Texas area that's going to be competing this weekend in the state 7-on-7 tournament. Some more Baylor recruiting news today. They got another commitment. The 4-star safety Jordan Deck out of Frisco is committed to the Baylor Bears. And yesterday we had Keith Kimball on here, and kind of off camera we were talking about, some of the NIL deals the guys are getting. The AJ DeBanster is going to BYU, $7 million reported is what he's getting. They just signed a 5-star quarterback out of California. BYU did as well. So clearly their NIL is ticking upwards. But he said, don't sleep on Baylor and what they've been able to do in NIL. And now with them saw Devontae Kirkland commit last week to Baylor. We watched London Smith and Jamarian Vincent commit to Baylor. The number 1 player in Texas who plays at Temple High School, Jamarian Carlton, just had his official visit last weekend to Baylor. And, he's got Baylor in his final 3 schools for where he's going to pick, and now getting his 4-star commitment. What do you think about Baylor's commitment, not only in NIL, but, over the last 5 years, 5, 6, 7 years, they've built a football stadium. They've now built a new basketball arena. They've improved some facilities, now kind of competing in this NIL space, signing another 4-star. What do you think about the recent moves of this Baylor Bear team?
Again, man, the days of facilities, tradition, are over.
Over with.
It's relationships, money, and playing time.
Yeah.
And if you can't, deal with some of that or these players, then you can't recruit. Obviously, Baylor has some money to recruit these players, but as what is their commitment to NIL? That's going to ultimately determine what. And here's the other thing. This is not something that Baylor has dealt with, but I think any program that has any level of success is going to deal with. What about when you have a guy like Kirkland or London that goes to Baylor and has a sensational freshman year? Do they get swiped by schools like Ohio State, USC? You know what I mean? How do they deal with those circumstances?
Facts.
I'm going to be honest with you, and I'm not real bullish on Baylor, for this reason. I think their commitment to NIL has been kind of hit and miss. You know what I mean? And what they're doing is they're hoping players that they have established relationships with pan out and are impactful early.
Yeah.
But let's be honest. you're expecting a freshman to come in and do what now?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and again, we're in the era where guys are staying 5-6 years.
Absolutely.
And as much as we talk about NIL and what that means, and as much as you have a guy like Jeremiah Smith and either Ryan Williams for Alabama are able to make an impact as freshmen, those are special guys, man.
Yeah,
those
definitely.
are special guys. And most freshmen, if you're coming in and for those guys to make an impact on your program, to be honest with you, your program is kind of down.
Absolutely.
If you're looking for a freshman to make an impact.
Yep.
What I want to know is what upperclassmen were Baylor able to use the NIL money to get? Because here's the deal. When you talk about freshmen or recruits, are you paying them right now?
Yeah.
And when the money starts flowing, will they get swiped up by a school that's willing to commit more resources, whatever? Because really, what happened? The school that a guy goes to as a freshman, odds are he's not going to finish there.
Yeah. In today's age, yeah, for sure.
He's not going to finish there. Are they going to – do I think it's good that they are getting the guys that are here locally to commit to Baylor and be part of their program? Absolutely. I think it's sensational, right? Will they long-term have a higher possibility of retaining those players as, you know, when you talk about transfers? I think there's a likelihood that those guys stay. But at the end of the day, if it's $400,000 to stay in Waco or $1.5 million to go to Ohio State, if I'm part of the Smith family, that's not much of a decision as far as I'm concerned.
Not at all.
You know what I mean? And so those are the real economic situations that Baylor has to decide how they want to deal with. You can tell. Don't tell me how committed you are now in this era of college football about who you sign, who's going to play high school next year.
Yeah.
You show me how committed you are, because again, when you sign a kid to come to your school, what you're signing is promissory notes.
Yep.
You don't have to pay those guys until they show up on campus.
Yep.
And so, what do you promise a guy to get him to show up on campus? It's not real money. It's an IOU.
Exactly.
It's a promise to pay. But when it's time, the guys that in the transfer portal, those are the guys you have to pay.
Cash
and
in
to be
right
perfectly
now.
honest with you, I'm so not impressed with what Baylor has done in the transfer portal.
Yes.
Not only this year, but the last couple of years.
Yeah, they haven't
hadn't been able to get in my opinion, they retained a quarterback that I think is quite middling. and
Sawyer. Yeah,
it's quite middling. And I think it was, if they wanted to go after a guy, there were some quarterbacks that they could have went after that were game changers. I don't know that Sawyer Robertson is a game changer.
Yeah, and a lot of people, to his credit, a lot of schools came knocking on the door for him too, and Baylor either stepped up financially or something to be able to keep him, because I know there were some schools offering more money. Like I said before, he's got the highest QBR out of any returning quarterback coming back in Power 4. So there were teams coming knocking. Auburn was one of them. They ended up going with Jackson Arnold, who they gave $2.5 million to, I believe. I think Duke was one of them, who they ended up giving $2 million to the kid from Tulane that was a freshman last year, quarterback, coming out there this year. So I'm like you. I've been underwhelmed with Baylor's transfer portal in football. A lot of the resources that go into basketball, their basketball team has done great in the transfer portal and in the recruiting as well. But basketball is a different sport. You get two kids in basketball.
To me, the story of the Baylor team this past season was the running back.
Yeah,
you know
for
what I
sure.
mean?
Bryson Washington.
Yeah, that was the running back. And so that was the story. I mean, and in large degree, the Cameron kid.
Josh Cameron as well.
Yeah.
Josh Cameron.
And so, who am I?
Yeah.
I think Baylor needs more at the quarterback position than what they have at Sawyer Robertson. But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
That's one thing about it. They lace him up very early. Auburn will be showing up in town.
August 29th, blackout game.
And we'll see. Hopefully we'll get some credentials.
Yes.
And we'll be able to
be in the building for that one for the blackout game on August 29th. I think that'll determine.
Is that a Thursday?
That's a Friday. Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
They're opening up
Hopefully,
Friday night.
I'll be able to go see that game on Friday and then catch the on Saturday. I'll be able to go see Prairie View and TSU in the Labor Day Classic.
That's a good weekend.
Let's see what happens.
That's a good weekend if they're able to do that. But Baylor, like I said, getting another 4-star recruit today. We'll see. We'll keep up with. Obviously, everyone's wondering where Jamarian Carlton is going to go out of Temple. So we'll see how they move forward with that. I want to hit a couple quick takes here while we got a little bit of time left on the show. First off, like I said earlier at the beginning of the show, it's Tuesday, so Aaron Rodgers went to Pat McAfee, which means there's headlines because it always is coming out of there. Now, the newly signed Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, talked about some of his newer teammates and what he would like to do with them. And they brought up, retirement with him. And Aaron Rodgers went ahead and said, yeah, hey, this is probably it for me. As far as his retirement, he said they signed a 1-year deal. They asked him why not, 2-year, 3-year deal. He said, yeah, this is probably going to be it for me. What do you think about Aaron Rodgers saying this could possibly be his final year in the NFL?
Well, I mean, hey, the guy's 200 years old. So,
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
at some point, you're going to have to hang up the cleats.
Yeah.
I think in football, it's always a situation where guys really don't know if it's over until they get to the end of the season. Mm-hmm. And I'm always leery of a guy who comes into a season with his mind made up to retire.
Yes. Yeah.
Will you – because, man, football is such a tough game.
Mm-hmm.
Man. And if you got 1 foot in, 1 foot out, can you be willing to take the necessary risk to throw that dot that needs to be thrown in order for your team to have a success? Will you hang in the pocket an extra second? Mm-hmm. Will you make that scramble and risk getting hit? Because at this point, he's 40 years old.
Yes. And
every hit, potentially, he could feel into his old age.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And it looked like it.
And he's making a risk. So, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you in this regard. I don't expect him to finish the season. I'm being perfectly honest with you. Can he have some success? Absolutely. I think Aaron is a Hall of Fame quarterback. I think he knows the game. He's a really smart quarterback. Mm-hmm. But with him having the mindset that he's going to retire at the end of the season,
it's dangerous.
I don't see how. And I hate it because Tomlin is one of my favorite coaches in the league. I want him to, win a Super Bowl. I want him to have a lot of success. That's why I wish he would have drafted Shador, even as a guarantee. I understand why he didn't, because if you have the hoopla around Shador along with Aaron Rodgers, it creates a circus. It creates a circus.
Yeah,
that's
overwhelming.
So I understand why he didn't, and I also understood why Aaron Rodgers waited to after OTAs to sign. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because if you're not signed to a roster, you don't have to attend. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to answer the questions about why isn't Aaron Rodgers here. Yep. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it just made sense for him to wait till after OTAs for him to sign. But again, a guy that has 1 foot in, 1 foot out, I don't think football is a 1 foot in, 1 foot out kind of game.
Absolutely not. That's how most people will tell you how you get hurt is by having the 1 foot in, 1 foot out type of deal. I'm agreeing, man. He's 40 years old. Of course, this is your last season. Last year, if last year didn't go so terrible, that probably was your last season. But you, as a competitor and as one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play in the NFL, you probably said, I don't want to go out on that note. But clearly, this is going to be your last year. And my take is this is his last year in the NFL. This is Tomlin's last year on the Steelers. And after this year, the Steelers are going to turn into the Cleveland Browns. That's my take. I think this Steelers roster is nasty. I think T.J. Watt is on his verge of leaving. He's still in contract disputes. He hadn't even been to OTAs. Once T.J. Watt leaves, once Mike Tomlin leaves, I think the Steelers are going to just be bad. Because honestly, with as good as Aaron Rodgers is, or not good, however people want to think about him, I think he's still a decent quarterback. This roster, I don't think he's going to finish the season like you because this offensive line is horrible. I'm looking at the depth chart right now. How are you comfortable with putting these guys out there and putting a 40-year-old Aaron Rodgers that can't move side to side behind this offensive line? I like Caleb Johnson that they got at running back, but you lose Najee Harris. You lose one of your main receivers in George Pickens. Pat Fryermuth is okay. They got DK, but DK is underwear Olympics type of guy. I think his production has never met the expectation that was put on him when coming out of the draft. And then their second receiver
Wasn't DK a second-round pick?
Yeah, I mean, he was a second-round pick, but, dude come in, he's 6'4", running a 4.4, 200-something pounds. They expect him to be the X. Even in Seattle, they expected him to be the X, and he was never the X.
Man, you're on my man, DK.
No,
man.
He's cool. He's cool.
No, what I'm saying is I like DK, and I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is DK isn't a refined receiver. He's not a Torrey Holt or Isaac Bruce he's not one of the he's a poor man's version of a Terrell Owens. And that's a pretty darn good receiver, man, in the NFL.
I get
it. I'm like this. Does he have top-notch hands? No, he has average hands. But he has a tremendous motor for a wide receiver, and I love that aspect of it. Right?
Probably one of the best blocker.
And he's a handful once he gets the ball in his hand.
Absolutely.
And so I think he's the kind of guy that to be honest with you, Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers will be able to use very well. I expect his production to be, comparable or better to what it was in Seattle.
I think
because he won't be given as many 50-50 balls.
Yeah.
He's going to be given a lot of balls that he can catch
within 5 to 10 yards,
and he can get it moving.
Yeah,
like I said,
I agree with that. He'll be used
the game
better.
Doesn't start for a guy like DK until he secures the ball.
Yeah.
Once he secures the ball, then that's when the party starts.
Absolutely, I agree with that. I think he's definitely going to be utilized better than he was in Seattle on Pittsburgh. I just don't really know where this Pittsburgh franchise is heading. Cameron Hayward is still like your third best player, and he's like 50. So I don't see them. I don't see an infusion of youth. Their secondary has been terrible since 2010 when they won the Super Bowl. They haven't addressed that. Still, I think Mike Tomlin is on his way out. Aaron Rodgers' retirement is just really going to be a part of that because now you're right back. I know he doesn't want to coach Will Howard or Skylar Thompson as a quarterback to be his quarterback, so hopefully he'll find a way to get out of there. Yesterday, we talked a little bit about your Dallas Cowboys, man. Obviously, they got a show coming out in a couple of weeks. That's going to be about, I guess, the former Cowboys and somewhat of the training camp going along with this year as well. But I know that you're a guy that likes to do a little bit of sports betting like myself. What is your over-under on their first 5 games? We're going 3 wins. Do you take the over or the under? Their first 5 games, they start the season, obviously, at Philadelphia for the season opener for the entire NFL. Week 2, they get the New York Giants at home. Week 3, they get back on the road, go to Chicago, and play the New Look Bears with Ben Johnson. They come back home in Week 4 to play against the Green Bay Packers on Sunday Night Football, and then they rounded out Week 5 going to New York to play the Jets. You're over or under on 3 wins out of those first 5 games. For your America's team, as you like to call them, your Dallas Cowboys.
Man, my over-under is 1 victory, man.
Out of that first 5, who was that against? New York Giants?
Yeah, Giants, man. I mean, I think we'll be competitive in a couple games. Like we'll be competitive in the Bears game, but it's on the road
in Chicago. Yep.
We'll be competitive in the Jets game.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's on the road.
Yeah.
The Packers game, I just see Brian Schottenheimer against what I think is a pretty good coach, Matt LaFleur.
Yeah, Matt LaFleur, a really good coach.
And then our first game, the Eagles game.
At Philly season opener, yeah, I see that one going Philly, which most people probably do.
I mean, I see it. I see it going Philly. I think the reality is in that game. In that game, we could catch Philly in a celebratory fog. But I just don't think that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I hope we catch Philly in a celebratory fog. But if I'm betting the under on on that.
On 3 games?
And if I could get better odds on 2 games, I'm going under on that one too. You know what I mean? Because again, I just think it's gonna be tough, man. Here's the deal: we're gonna be an offensive team, man. Defense, I don't know that we'll be any, losing. Well, we didn't lose them, but I don't know if we're going to be any better defensively. We didn't really.
I think they'll be better in the passing defense. Add another edge rusher.
Are we still going to give up 150 yards a game, man? You know what I mean?
I think they're going to give up 150 rushing still. That's my biggest problem with the Cowboys. I don't think they addressed enough in the run game, in the run defense, given Odigizua $80 million. I was like, okay, I mean, Odigizua is a decent player, but $80 million, I feel like they could have spread that around a little bit.
Where I think we're going to be able to make hay, and I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, is these 3 games right here, these 6 games. The Panthers, Commanders, Broncos, Cardinals, Raiders, back to the Eagles. Like, that's our season right there. Like,
in that stretch,
that's our season. Because I believe we can get off to a bad start if we regroup and go 4-2 in that 6-game stretch. That gives us going into the Thanksgiving game against the Chiefs, which I think we're going to lose. You know what I mean? And
that's a tough stretch.
Yeah.
At the end of that.
No.
Right after that.
So that's what I'm saying. Like I'm saying, we have to be viable as a squad at that point.
Absolutely.
If our season, because if we go in, look here, man. If we go into that situation after 10 games, and we're sitting at 4-6, with the Chiefs coming to town on Thanksgiving, with playing the Lions the week after, playing Vikings the week after, playing the Chargers the week after, playing the Commanders the week after.
That's tough. That's a tough stretch to end the season right there. I'm not gonna lie. That's a tough stretch to end the season.
If we're a 500 team or 6-4, we go into that stretch thinking that we have a chance against every team there. If we can just go. If we can go 500 in that stretch, maybe there's an outside chance we can go to playoffs. But I see, man, look here, man. I'll be honest with you. You know how it says, like, pencil in some wins? I can't see, but 4 wins I pencil in.
Carolina, for sure. One of the Giants, for sure.
I'm going to take both the Giants.
Both the Giants, okay. I wouldn't be mad at that at all. That's
and the
3.
Raiders.
And then the Raiders. Yeah. I mean, Cardinals on Monday Night Football. I could give.
How much money would you bet on the Cowboys on that game?
I wouldn't because they almost lost to the Cardinals when they had a 3rd-string quarterback in Josh Dobbs. They almost lost that game a couple of years ago.
Come on, man.
Yeah, so that's tough. That's a tough way to end. Like you said, the Panthers, the Giants. You got to win both Giants. And as bad as I think the Giants are, and I do think they're bad, I think they still have.
This is the issue I have with getting rid of. This is almost sacrilegious, man. Do I really want to make this statement? This is the problem with getting rid of Mike McCarthy. You can go in the game. You can go in the season with Mike McCarthy, and you can pencil in Giants, Bears, Panthers.
Yeah.
Split with the
Commanders.
Split either you're gonna win one of 2 of the Broncos Cardinals games, You take the Raiders, right? In a good year, we're going to split with the Eagles.
Yeah.
Say the Chiefs take us out. We could probably
Beat Minnesota.
you'll have a chance against the Lions with all that they lost, and we'll have a chance against the Vikings and the Chargers, and the Commanders, but with Shotty as head coach.
That's up in the air.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
I agree. It's the unknowns. You had some familiarity with Mike McCarthy, regardless if the team was getting better or worse. With them getting Schottenheimer, like, I was never impressed from the jump. I'm not going to feel different now 2 or 3 months later because he's had some more speeches about Schottenheimer. We don't know what he is as a coach. What we do know is, as a coach, he's been a coach for 30 years and never been a head coach.
So
that's what I do know.
This is the deal. Watch this. You're going to think of this. I think this is why we get 2 primetime games in the first 4 weeks of the season. Because the league knows that later on.
Yeah, like last year. If it starts to tip off, you will lose that viewership. There won't be as much. If they're just 500, the NFL is wanting them to be around 500 by the time they get to the Eagles and Chiefs, because then, okay, these are all meaningful games going forth, and they were all good teams.
And then the Vikings Cowboys on the 14th. That's a flex game.
Yeah.
They'll flex us out of that so fast it'll make our damn heads swim.
They definitely will. Yeah, and then you playing the Commanders on Christmas. Man, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, they got a tough schedule. They gave y'all some, a couple cupcakes in there with the Panthers, and I still think they'll beat the Jets, even though it's at the Jets. I just can't trust Justin Fields and whoever they got out there on offense. Still, the Broncos, I think that is a loss. I think Broncos are one of my favorite teams going in this year.
If Dak is able to muster up a winning season with Shotty at head coach, would you then be able to say Dak is a elite or
I'd have him as a top 5 quarterback in the league. If he goes out there and wins 11 games with this schedule and with Shotty as a head coach, because he's the de facto leader. Ain't nobody listening to Schottenheimer. Hey, Dak, what are we doing? What are we doing? So I will put him as a top 5 quarterback.
And this is what I would say. This is what I would say. And that would mean that Dak has carried 3 coaches.
Jason Garrett is they counting as one of the ones he's carrying?
Yeah.
Jason Garrett, Schottenheimer, and who's the third?
Mike McCarthy.
You think Dak carried Mike McCarthy?
Yeah.
I'm not all the way disagreeing with that take, but Mike McCarthy came with some.
No. What I mean by what did Mike McCarthy do? And to a large degree, I'll even take the fact that he may have carried Kellen Moore off the table because Kellen Moore was, his offensive coordinator while he was there. My point in saying that is that we can establish that Dak is a guy. At that point, he's an elite quarterback.
Yeah.
If he can pull this team with that coach,
absolutely,
and he can put them in the playoffs. Like you say, okay, Dak's.
Yeah, definitely. With this team, with Shotty, and to the McCarthy point, I would probably argue that Dan Quinn carried both of them. But I think that if he carries this team with this schedule, because I said it a couple of months ago, this year is on Dak more than anybody else to me. You've been here longer than anybody in the building besides Jerry Jones and Will McClay. You've been here longer than everybody else here. This is your 10th year going into the league.
Steven's been there quite a while.
Yeah, Steven as well. Steven, Will McClay, and Jerry. Matter
of fact,
the only people that's been there
he's been there longer than anybody than Will McClay and anybody else named Jones.
Anybody named Jones. Facts. Everybody else, you've been there longer, bro. This is on you, man. If you are that quarterback, if you are that guy, if you are, to your words, the truck instead of the trailer, then this is the year to do it, man. This is the year to do it. And we're giving you some more help on your side. I seen that from Will McClay and the guys making the front. Hey, we're going to give this to you, Dak. We're going to get George Pickens. We're going to use our first-round pick on another lineman for you. We're going to go and get 5 or 6 running backs and just see who is decent. We're going to give you the weapons. Defense, you just going to have to get it how you live. Micah, we need 16 sacks. Trayvon and Deron Bland, we need 6 picks apiece from y'all for the defense to even be competitive, because I don't think the run defense is going to be anything. I think this year is on Dak, and I'm actually excited to watch it to see is Dak that guy, because as tough as this schedule is, there's some winnable games. And what if Dak comes out and goes off against the Green Bay Packers at home on Sunday Night Football? Already in week 4, I'm already starting to look at them different, because historically, the Packers coming into the Dallas Cowboys building is a beatdown on the Cowboys over the last 5, 6, 7 years. If he can win that game, and then you get 2 wins against the Jets and the Panthers, then you beat the Rookie of the Year in Jaden Daniels. Those are some games you can start to build that. You can start to build the lore of, okay, Dak Prescott is one of those guys now in the NFL. So this will make or break season, in my opinion, for Dak Prescott and for the Cowboys, because honestly, I think they start to look some other directions in the next couple of years if this season goes bad. With no injuries, no major injuries, if this season goes bad, I think they start to look a couple other directions. Before we get off here, I got a couple more. A couple more quick takes here. One of them being the Canelo and Crawford fight. They had their face-off I think that was last week. They had their face-off. What do you think about? It's not going to be until September, but that Canelo and Crawford fight.
I think it's a good fight. It's 2 A-level fighters.
Absolutely.
I'll even say this. I think both of them slightly past their prime.
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
But it's 2 A-level fighters, and this is one for the history. This is one for the history books. I think where the fight is happening weight-wise, I think it's to Canelo's advantage.
Sure.
But if everything that we know about Crawford holds true, he should be very competitive. And I think, even though I don't think he will be the favorite going into the fight, I think he probably should be the favorite.
I think so too. I like Crawford in this fight. Him going up
let me
3
see.
weights. Him going up 3 weights is alarming. You only fought at 150 something once in your entire career, and now you're going to go up to
let me look at the
164.
Let me see what the people in Vegas say about the odds
the
on
fight
this
is in Vegas, I believe, on September. That's going to be a really good fight. Canelo, like you said, passes prime. I think Crawford passes prime too. They're both 35 plus.
I think both of them are slightly past their prime.
Yeah, and Crawford talked about it, this being his legacy fight. Canelo got to fight the Floyd Mayweathers and got to fight the Triple Gs and different guys like that. I think this is the legacy fight for Crawford. He spoke about it. This will be his biggest fight by far. If he's able to win this, he cements himself, in my opinion, as one of the best boxers to fight at that weight class. So a lot on the line for Crawford's legacy. Canelo, his legacy is already stamped. He's already kind of fallen off a little bit. He's tailed off some, losing fights to guys like Bevo and fights like that. But this is a legacy fight for Crawford for sure, in my opinion. Do they have the odds out? Yeah, I don't know if they put the odds out.
I'm looking. Yeah, they got them out. And again, like I say, Canelo's the favorite in this fight.
Yeah.
Crawford is plus 140. You bet 100, you win 140. I think that's good money if you put it on Crawford. I think that's a great bet. When can you get an A-level fighter at 140 against what I would consider a diminishing star? You know. Now, again, to your point, it's at a weight class that he's never fought at or whatever.
Never fought at, yeah.
But when you think about it, the guy walks around at that weight.
Yeah. He looks like he's that weight. I mean, they're doing the weight, and he looks like he's that weight right now.
Yeah.
He look 165, 170 right now.
And one thing I can say, man, I think Crawford is one mean dude, man.
Yes, he's a dog.
He's a mean dude. Now, here's the deal. Does his punching power translate at that weight? You don't know.
Exactly.
Now, a lot of people say, it may not transfer. But guess what? He's a bigger guy, though.
He is.
You understand? He'll be a bigger man. Yes. He hadn't punched many people at 160. You know what I mean? So
he's a switch hitter. He can go southpaw. He can go orthodox.
And to your point, with this being a legacy fight for him, and his biggest payday.
By far.
If he does something spectacular, he could probably extend that payday into another fight with with someone else.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean,
if
you can get the credentials and the credibility of beating Canelo, then you can go beat up a Jake Paul for $50 million or whatever they offer. You can go whoop him for $100 million,
Jake
whatever.
Paul doesn't want anything with a legitimate boxer.
Not even a little bit. He'd pee on himself at the thought of having. But
what I'm saying is Terrence Crawford. Then he submits himself at that weight, and then it kind of opens up for him as he can do some of the Floyd Mayweather stuff. Like you say, do some of the. He may not take some fights that are not as dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
And still cash in because at that point, in my opinion, he puts him in a situation where, if he fights Canelo and wins, comes back down and somewhat fight Tank at some type of catch weight, what is that fight worth?
Yeah, I mean he's the face of boxing at that point. If him
Canelo,
and Tank
shared. I would say him and Tank would have to share that.
Tank got to quit running from people though. That's my only problem with Tank as far as being the face.
Well, I mean, there's a lot. Well, so as a businessman, let's talk about this as a businessman. When you talk about Tank, why take a dangerous fight when you're not compensated in kind?
I get it.
Yeah.
I 100%
now for the
get it.
sheer competition.
Yeah,
I get it.
I hate it.
But Floyd set this precedent. Floyd got earned what $300 million in a fight against a guy who was well over his heel, Manny Pacquiao.
Yeah.
So what you do is you hang on and you don't fight the guys when they're dangerous. You fight the guys when they're a lot less dangerous.
And I've seen people say that. But to Floyd's credit, Floyd fought all of his mandatories when Floyd was in his prime. He fought Sugar Shane. He fought Oscar. He fought Cotto. He fought all the guys that were his mandatory at the time. Now the Pacquiao
he wasn't fighting for belts though. He was fighting for the quote unquote pound for pound.
Yeah.
And so he did a lot of again. I understand what you're saying about Floyd, but Floyd took some fights. Floyd fought Berto.
He did.
Floyd, you know what I'm saying? Like Floyd fought Corey.
His last 5 fights were very questionable. Last 5 or 6 fights were just
fought Corey. He fought a couple guys that were aging, and rather than go after the marquee fighters, he took some aging guys and got some paydays.
Yeah,
and I think that's smart as a boxer. I'm just saying as a boxing fan, here's the reality that I think that as boxing fans we have to realize. It does a fighter no good to fight tough fights back to back to back to back.
Absolutely.
That's not the sport.
Yeah.
The sport is building up enough credibility over time so you can create stories and epic battles between legendary champions.
No, I agree with that.
And so it isn't about – think about this, man. If these guys fight this fight 10 years ago, one of these guys is out of boxing by now.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Definitely. No, I agree with that. And Canelo has proved that to a T because he fought until he fought Bevo and lost. He fought about 10 randoms after he fought Triple G because I already got paid. I beat Triple G and I fought Floyd. At this point, it's not going to benefit me to fight the next upcoming star.
Oh, yeah.
If the zone is going to give
There's
me $500 million.
Who has ducked more guys than Canelo.
Nobody.
Canelo had no interest in fighting guys like I forget all the guys that he didn't have no interest in fighting those guys. Like he could have been the one guy I think that could have brought what's my man name that was a light heavyweight that beat the Crusher. I can't think of his name. If you hadn't asked me, man.
And light heavy, I'm trying to remember who was fighting.
Light skinned dude. He retired undefeated with one draw.
Oh, Andre Ward.
Andre Ward.
Oh, Andre Ward.
Like he was the one guy. Canelo probably was the one guy that could bring.
Yeah,
Andre Ward out of boxing. He didn't have no interest in doing that.
He didn't even think about it. I mean, not even a little. He didn't even offer Bevo a rematch after Bevo beat him. I said, yeah, Canelo don't, man. Canelo's been checked out. Once the zone gave him that $500 million or whatever it was for like 6-7 fights, man, he just threw it out there. It's like when you're trying to get out of a record deal. I'm gonna just put 3 albums out. I don't care what they sound like. I just get my money and get out this deal. That was Canelo's last one. But yeah, I agree, and I think, man, this fight is gonna be huge because of what it can mean for Crawford. Because Crawford can solidify himself as, like I said, one of those best guys in the boxing realm. That fight is not until September though, so we'll be keeping an eye on that. They just had their first face-off, so they got to go on their press runs and all this kind of stuff before they actually get into the fights. Running out of time here on the show. Before we get off, last week I did my top 5 for Juneteenth. In honor of Juneteenth, I did my favorite top 5 black quarterbacks, man. Who is, if just to put you on the spot a little bit, if you had to think of 5 guys, I think my 5 was, I had Warren Moon at 5. I put man, who did I put? I put Doug in there at 4 because he's the first one to win a championship, a first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl. And then at 3, I just did my favorite guys. I put Vic at 3. I put Cam at 2, and I put Lamar at 1 for my top 5 black quarterbacks.
I noticed you did all black.
Yeah. Look, the first thing somebody asked me when I got out there, hey, man, you ain't put Mahomes on there. I said, no comment, man. I'm just going with my 5 favorite.
Yeah.
But, yeah, if you just had to get out the top of your head, man,
get
5.
any biracial.
No, we
I think that's the proper term, right? Biracial.
Yeah, biracial. I think that's
for Juneteenth we gonna exclude the biracial quarterbacks.
Yeah, I want the guys who have been sitting outside in the sun. Give me those guys.
Let me see. Let me look at this. And I'm not gonna put them in any order right now.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm gonna go Warren Moon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go Steve McNair.
That's the one that hurt me to leave out.
I'm gonna go Randall Cunningham.
Yep. Randall. That's what I talked about. Randall on there.
Wow, I'm getting close. Because my favorite quarterback, even though he's probably not number 1 in the ranking, he's my favorite quarterback. Oh man.
So we have Randall, Moon, McNair, Air McNair. So we got 2 spots.
And I'll even go Doug, then Vic.
Okay.
Vic is my Doug, and Vic is my all-time favorite black quarterback. Mm-hmm. So who did I miss? Who did I leave out of your top 5?
Lamar, Cam. You said Randall. I had Randall as my honorable mention.
I left Cam out.
Yeah. And I really wanted to put Cam. Cam is my all-time favorite for quarterback. Okay, but Cam, yeah, I think who you left out.
Oh man, you put me on the spot.
Look at my list. I had it written down somewhere. I had 10, and I tried to shorten my list to 5.
Huh? Hey, I'm gonna play like I didn't even hear that. Someone said Vince Evans.
Yeah.
He's not even top 5 USC quarterbacks.
Right. Hey, I'm taking only Vince out is accepted as young. He ain't taking that.
You know, I'm gonna make a revision to my list.
Okay.
Because I got to.
Okay.
And I'm gonna hate to do this, but if I'm gonna really look at a career, I'm gonna have to take Doug out.
Okay.
And I'm gonna put Cam in.
Okay.
And of course, Mike Vick stays.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think statistically Doug can hold a candle to any of those guys that I mentioned.
I put him in there simply off the history when I had him in mind. Honestly, simply off the history of him winning, coming from HBCU and then being the first guy to win.
How many has Mahomes won?
3 of them. He's won 3.
It's
been to 5.
So we got 1.5 Super Bowls. He's won 1.5. No, I'm just messing with you. So we got 1.5.
People ask me, ain't no Mahomes on the list.
Again, and if you ask me this, probably in a couple years, I'm gonna have to put Lamar in.
Yeah,
but then I'm thinking, who do I take out?
Yeah, that's the
problem.
Do
I take out? Do I take Randall out? Do I take Moon out? Moon's a Hall of Famer. I don't think you can take him out.
No.
But
first black Hall of Fame quarterback.
But I probably, if I honestly, this is gonna hurt me, man. But the first guy to go would be McNair.
Yeah. Yeah, he was my honorable mention. I went back and forth on him over and over and over, him and Warren Moon, but with Warren Moon being the first one to win, and then he won like 50 CFL championships when they didn't want to let him in the NFL. So.
Well, he's a Hall of Famer. Like you can't
and
put,
the first black quarterback Hall of Famer.
Yeah, you can't take him out.
Yeah.
When everybody, I mean, statistically he's massive. I mean,
for sure.
you know, you can't. There's nothing you can do with him.
20,000 plus yards.
I mean, I think.
It's just...
No.
Warren moved.
Anybody got beat out by Terry Bradshaw? I'm not. Jefferson Street Joe.
Yeah, no, we might well put Quincy Carter in there. Then we go do all these mental too. But hey, Warren Moon, like he got 50,000 NFL passing yards, and he got 21,000 yards in the CFL. That's ridiculous. So Warren Moon obviously would have to stay. Lamar, I put him in mind just because I like Lamar right now, but you can easily put McNair in there, Cunningham. Some people argue Donovan McNabb. But
if it's on merit alone,
mm-hmm.
if it's on merit in career alone, you got to put Lamar out there because he's amassed a Hall of Fame career up to this point. When you talk about
before he reached
2
30.
MVPs, probably should have won 3.
Yeah.
The playoff thing, I don't think you can't. Yeah, I mean, man, I made a boo-boo, man. I mean, you got to put Lamar in there. You got to put Cam in there. So I'm going to redo mine, man.
Okay.
This is live.
Yeah. I put you on the spot. It's all right.
So you got to put Warren Moon in there.
Absolutely.
What Lamar's done is unprecedented, so you got to put Lamar in there. I'm going to take 2 guys that these next 3 guys is really just a matter of taste.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take Vic, and then I'm going to take Cam.
Okay.
And then for my last guy.
That's the tough one. You got McNair, you got Cunningham.
I'm going to take Cunningham.
Randall Cunningham, man.
I'm going to take – and Cunningham is largely going to be because of, much like Vic, is impact over statistics.
Yes.
Like impact.
Yeah.
Impact.
Very arguably the most impactful on that list because the first guy that got a chance to play that style of play that some of these other guys could have played. He was the first one to get that, get the reins, let go of the reins and say, just play how you going to play. Randall
and
Cunningham
then later
first.
become a prolific passer.
Absolutely.
With the Vikings.
Yeah.
So I got to go with that, and so that's my final 5, and I'm done with.
I'm sticking to it.
I'm sticking to it, man. And shout out to Doug. Shout out to some guys that didn't make it. Definitely the late Steve McNair,
one of the greatest arms we've seen.
Yeah, man. There's some guys in there that I really, really like, but those 5 guys really, and I would say they set the league on fire when they were at quarterback.
Absolutely.
What Warren was able to do when he was at Houston, like it was unprecedented. He was throwing for 500 yards in a game.
He missed half of his prime and still threw for 40,000 plus yards in the NFL. That's ridiculous. Like those are the kind of stats that don't even make sense.
Then you talk about a guy like Cam who came in kicking tail.
Immediately, still has the best rookie season
and then you
ever.
look at Lamar who came in a situation where he was asked to play another position by a former GM.
Mm-hmm.
He should look at playing wide receiver, running back. Then you look at a guy like Michael Vick and the Michael Vick experience and what all
Still
that
nothing
entailed.
like
There's nothing like Mike Vick.
Like it.
And I love Lamar.
Mm-hmm.
I love Lamar, but there was
It's 2 different things.
Yeah,
2 different things. At the same time,
Lamar makes what Vic did look easier than Vic made it. But it was a different league back then.
It was a different league. And then Lamar, I think clearly the better runner is Lamar. But the fact that Vic could get a 50-yard run or a 30-yard run and the next play be a 60-yard bomb down the middle of the field is what gives Michael Vick his own experience.
And then the only thing you have to do to really understand what Randall Cunningham was look up, go to YouTube and just look up Randall Cunningham highlights.
Which I used to do religiously. That's why I couldn't leave him out of my
There was nothing like that in the league before, and I'm talking about back when they were making what John Elway was doing was unbelievable.
Yeah.
What Jim Kelly was doing was unbelievable. What Montana was doing, Steve Young was doing, but nobody was doing that.
No.
You understand?
No.
And I think Randall a lot of times was hurt because we weren't in a – nowadays every game is covered in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
I think he played in a lot of games that, you know, what he did wasn't covered the way it's covered now.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially with the quarterbacks that were in the league at the same time as him. If we're only going to pick 3 or 4 guys to cover, of course we're going to pick Marino, Elway, Young, Montana, all of those different guys. Jim Kelly with the winning they were doing. But Randall Cunningham, like you said, going back and watching the highlights, that was one of the first highlights I can legit remember watching of a guy I'd never seen play before. Is when they just had NFL films. They didn't, YouTube wasn't out yet.
And the thing that ultimately frustrates me is I'm a Cowboy fan, and it was always pub that Aikman was clearly better
than
Randall Cunningham, and that was such bullshit.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Completely false.
Yeah. And when you look at their statistics, even though Randall isn't in the Hall of Fame and Aikman clearly is, when you look at their statistics, Randall has better statistics on by any measure. The only difference is, and this is just my personal opinion, the only difference is Aikman got a chance to play with Stepnowski, 2A, Newton, Michael Irvin.
Top 10 receiver ever, Michael Irvin, the guy that's got the most rushing yards ever, Emmitt Smith still.
You know what
that
I mean?
might have helped a little bit. Larry Allen, the best offensive lineman ever, that might have helped.
You know what I'm saying? So if fortunes were changed, and Randall Cunningham got an opportunity to play with the caliber of team that ultimately Aikman would play with, I don't think there would be any doubt.
No, it would be no doubt whatsoever. If Randall Cunningham got to play with that Dallas Cowboys team, Jerry Jones might have let those guys kneel in 2016. Who never knows? Maybe that changes everything how he even looks at it. But we're out of time here today on Centex Primetime. Y'all jump in the comments and let us know if we left out a quarterback. Said, I know you probably want to throw Donovan McNabb in there, man, because you're an Eagles fan. But appreciate you guys watching with us today. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, right here on Centex Primetime. Make sure you guys getting ready to tune in for that. As always, subscribe to the YouTube Centex Sports Network / Centex Sports TV, and also the website, free subscription, CentexSportsNetwork.com. You can always go on there. Are we doing HBCU coach?
No, not tonight, man.
Okay.
But there is some content that we put up yesterday with Brian Fulford, a guy who covers FAMU with the ONG Strike Zone and the Black College Sports Network. He was on with me yesterday on the Rocky Miller podcast. We did a great interview. If you guys are so inclined, please go to the Rocky Miller YouTube page and check it out. It was a great interview. He provided some tremendous commentary and context and gave his opinion of where FAMU athletics is currently in the midst of the turmoil that's going on with their program. So,
absolutely, guys. Make sure you guys go and check that out. Rocky Miller's YouTube channel. Go on there, check out that last interview. As always, like I said, make sure you guys subscribe and follow. You can see my ad at the bottom ticker there, at Jalen Gillis. You can also follow the show at Centex Primetime on Instagram as well. I want to thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Everybody have a great evening.